This is TWiT.
Paul Thurrott. First of all, what is the provenance of this so-called Windows 11 that you seem to be running?
Wow. Well, it was leaked yesterday. Yep. And I realize that's a rather passive way of saying it.
Mistakes were made.
Presumably.
Somebody at Microsoft.
Well, you know, who knows?
Maybe it was intentional.
The thing is, people, you know, actually, I'll address the last point in this part of the notes first, which is about the conspiracy theory thing. I've heard from a kind of astonishing number of people who feel that this is literally Microsoft level setting expectations by leaking it on purpose. Some people have even said literally they handed it to me and to other people like me with a little, you know, don't tell anybody.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That makes sense, actually.
And that's why people believe conspiracy theories, because they do make sense in many cases. This one, that didn't happen, and I don't think that that's how it happened. Obviously, it could have come from a Microsoft employee. It's far more likely it came from some kind of a partner or a customer who
an OEM
also had early access
who's
to
building
it.
into new machines.
And an individual working for a company, you know, who just posted it up on some public thing. So I just to address that, just to be clear, Microsoft did not orchestrate this, to my knowledge. I mean, in other words, they never approached me.
Did you see the opposite conspiracy theory, which was you guys think this is real, but it's not, because Microsoft put a fake leak out there to throw you all off the trail.
So for whatever that's worth, I considered that. And
you did?
We're not going to be in an audience, so I can't stand up and applaud them. I would do that if that happened.
I know, right?
This is too elaborate for that.
It is.
Well, it's a complete version of Windows, right?
Yeah, it's literally right. So
I know.
This is a lot of work to go to. They, you know, changing the Windows shell is not an arbitrary thing you do. Hey, Bob, I'll meet you later at lunch. I'm just going to finish up the new shell. It doesn't work that way, right? This is a little more complicated than that.
No, you know why they thought that, though? I said this on Twitter. I'm like, yeah, everybody still has PTSD from Windows 8.
Yeah, right.
People, so, if this was Windows 8, that could have been a plausible idea that somebody, meaning the leadership in charge at the time, leaked it.
It's something
wait a minute, what do you
have...
mean? What is the PTSD?
Well, in other words,
PTSD? What is the problem?
To understand what she's saying, Steve Vasanovsky was very secretive, right? And he did an about face with the previous regime, Jim Allchin, where, you know, remember, they were all out and open and everything, you know, they were telling everyone what they were going to do, and it kind of blew up on their face with Longhorn. You know, it was delayed for several years, and then they ended up with Windows Vista. And seeing that, Sinofsky said, well, we're doing the opposite. You know, there's always like this overreaction. And they deliberately tried to mislead us at that time before we saw the Windows 8 UI, but they never released a fake thing. That's an enormous engineering effort. I mean, it's implausible. I'll say that the little asterisk at the end of this is, it is far more likely and probable that there's more going on than we see here, because, you know, the way they build Windows is any build from any place in Microsoft could have just a part of what we're going to see eventually. So it's more likely that this is an incomplete look. And we already know, for example, there's going to be a new app store. The app store that's in here is exactly the same app store. There's going to be a new settings app. The settings app that's in here is exactly the same. A lot of the built-in apps are going to be updated and overhauled, and the built-in apps are all exactly the same. So this is a new shell, basically, is what we're seeing here. A new UX, however you want to say it. And it's too complicated to create this thing, because it would so easily be seen as a fake if it wasn't, in fact, actually Windows. It's working. You can upgrade from Windows 10 to this. You can install it clean in a virtual machine or on hardware. It's Windows. This is real. Like will it be a little different maybe by the time it ships to the public? Maybe.
Hopefully.
Well, you know, we'll talk about that. I mean, you know, so I just the conspiracy theory thing to me is.
I know. It was getting a little
alarming,
out of hand. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
yeah. Well, it's expected. The degree to, I just had people say, I know that Microsoft. It's like you know.
I know.
How do you know?
So honestly, it doesn't make any difference unless
It doesn't.
they release. By the way, I'm doing my Larry King impression now. I hope you.
I
like
was
it.
literally just going to say that. Next up.
Yeah, Boston. It's hot. It's hot, and I've stripped down to suspenders.
By the end of the show, you'll just have
I'll
the
be
suspenders on.
Yeah. I look like a Chippendale dancer. Unless it's and this is completely not credible, it's some sort of red herring to lead you off the scent. That would make no sense. Nobody's going to spend time to make that.
Okay. You know what, though? I just remembered something, and Mary Jo will remember this as I say it. Microsoft did do that one time. They did it with Windows XP.
They released a
they
phony
didn't do it.
version?
Yeah, they did. It had a Whistler UI that was a modified version of the Windows 2000 UI.
That's weird.
Which some people still love and wanted it to be the UI. And then in February of whatever the year, it must have been 2001, they revealed the actual UI, which they had been working on in secret. So a lot of people thought originally that Windows XP was going to have this Whistler UI, as they called it. And Watercolor was the name. Whistler was the code name for Windows XP. The UI was called Watercolor. And it was just basically a slightly modified version of the Windows 2000.
So it's happened, but it seems not credible.
No.
I don't look. I think there's more coming. I
do too.
And
Same.
the degree to which there is more will help us form our opinion a little more fully next week. But
it's not.
Isn't
I don't
this-
think
this is fake. I don't think it's fake. I don't think it's
No,
fake.
isn't this bill dated May 30th? So it's fairly recent, right? But not.
Tell
I saw
us
people say
about
May
it.
30th,
Honestly,
and-
so one thing that we now know it is Windows 11, right?
Okay, but maybe that's a red herring too, right? I mean, it does say Windows 11 everywhere. Yes.
Okay.
It does.
Setup says
It does.
Windows 11. The EULA says Windows 11.
All right.
WinVerse says Windows 11.
I think we've seen
Yeah.
enough teases that we know it's Windows 11. So
I do too.
that's flattened.
Yeah.
It seems. But who again, who knows?
Is it just a UI shift? Is it just that?
There's
Yes.
a couple other tiny things, aren't there? Like
That
very minor.
not that I have experienced directly. I mean, from what I can tell, and I haven't dived into it in any technical way, like maybe Raphael or Walking Cat might do, but it is, it's a UI refresh for sure. It's Windows 10 for sure too, right? And that's a goofy thing to say. It's like, Windows XP was Windows 2000, right? It's like the next version of Windows 2000. Windows 7 was Windows Vista, really. I mean, you kind of lose track of what's what here, but it's so clearly Windows 10. Like, it's Windows 10. I mean, and of course it is, right? It's not like I said this, I don't remember where I said or wrote this, maybe on Twitter. It's not like someone fired up Visual Studio, start new project, x64, ARM64, native, I'll call it Windows 11, and started writing code. I mean, it's a continuation of the thing we had before.
As it almost
Of
always
course,
is.
Of course.
Right?
I mean, it has to
Right.
be. Has to be, right? Has to be.
I think so many people were all getting overly hyped and expecting more. Even when we kept saying it's going to be basically lipstick on a pig, right? Like people are like, "No, you guys are underplaying it, right? Like it's going to be this massive change underneath. Everything's going to be
Well, yeah.
different."
I
And I'm
mean-
like,
Well, I was
don't
hoping for that, but you
think so.
convinced me last week that
Yeah.
was not to be hoped
Yeah.
for.
Part
and
of
now
the
you were
agreement
right.
we made with Microsoft is we would overhype it and then underhype it, and then keep
Right.
people guessing. It's just
I know. It's good we're on their payroll. It's very good.
it's the cabal that we are part of.
They're joking.
We are
They're
obviously.
joking. No, yeah, you say obviously.
I know.
At least
Okay.
one person heard you say that.
Yeah, so 10 years from now, someone's going to be I'm sure I heard you say in a
They said they're on
podcast
the
you were in a
payroll. They
cabal with
admitted it.
Microsoft. Yeah.
Just
I
like
know.
we've been saying for a long time, this is Windows 10 was the last version of Windows. Big
I
scoop
know.
from Mary Jo Foley. Nobody said that. Jerry said it.
Jerry.
Jerry
Poor
said
Jerry.
it. Jerry Nixon. It
You know what
was
they should
Jerry-
do?
A guy named Jerry is like the conclusion of a Stephen Wright joke.
Jerry said it.
It's
No, you
like
know
I
what?
found out that the guy who built the pyramids was a guy named Jerry.
No, they're going to get Jerry
like-
Nixon. Jerry Nixon will start off the launch next week. He'll come out on the stage and he'll be like, "Guys, I'm sorry."
No, he should come out and say, guys, Windows 11 is going to be the last version of Windows.
They should. It would be funny. It would be funny.
That's what he should say.
Well, and by the way, I looked at his quote. And he may have meant the latest. You know, sometimes people, that is one use of the word last. The latest version, not the last ever.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
He wasn't that explicit. He didn't say, there's never going to be another version of Windows. He simply said, the last version of Windows, Windows 10.
What was the context for this comment, by the way? When did this come
It was
up?
some Ignite session he was speaking in.
So this was just a guy speaking off the cuff in front of people.
Right.
And he may well have meant the latest, which is a completely common usage of the word last.
I will say this, 640K is enough RAM for everybody. I don't know why we argue about that.
It was a great point Mary Jo made, and it's interesting because it swept the world.
Yeah.
People said, "Oh, we all thought it was going to be the last," but Microsoft never said that. Just some guy named Jerry.
No, and then on Twitter, on Twitter, a few people chimed in who worked at Microsoft during the time, and they said, "Okay, maybe we never said it on the record officially, but inside Microsoft, that was how we treated it, the last version of Windows."
Sure.
So they acted like that's how it was, right?
I think, well, of course, but you got to remember that I call them regimes. I wish there was a better word for this, but I mean, at the time, it was Terry Myerson and his crew calling the shots for Windows, and to them, maybe they thought that was true. And by the way, one of the things I talked about,
they also thought they'd never leave Microsoft. So there you go.
Well, when Terry was kind of forced out of the company, one of the things I kind of talked about at that time was, you know, Terry was given a terrible job, right, by Satya Nadella. He said, you can run Windows, but you got to make it work within this whole other thing we're doing around cloud and servicing and all this stuff. And you know, it just was never going to work properly. I mean, it was just it was a tough job. So, you know, the subsequent, regardless of whether Terry's there or whoever's there now, we have been dealing with Windows 10 for a long time. 6 years this next month, right? That is almost unprecedented. I say almost because Windows XP was in market from 2001 till actually. It is unprecedented. It wasn't as long. It's not. Windows XP was around for so long it felt like a lifetime. But actually, Windows Vista, was it 2000? I think it was the end of 2005. No, 2006 it must have been. So 5 years. So Windows 10 has actually been in market longer than Windows XP was. And like Windows XP, it was updated over time, right? We had SP2, we had Tablet PC Edition, at least 2 versions of that. We had at least 2 versions of Windows Media Center Edition. I mean, there was still churn, but we stuck with it was Windows XP.
Yep. I think during the event, my prediction is they're not even going to address this. Is it the last version of Windows? They're just
they should address it. They should do it. They should do it in a fun way.
They should be funny, but I doubt they will be funny.
It's the next version of Windows.
They should bring up a clip of Jerry and be like, "Remember this guy? Yeah, we fired him this morning." And
Jerry's still there.
Just kidding, And then
Jerry's still there, as far as we know. In Denver.
No, of course
he is. I looked at his Twitter
as a joke,
just to see if he had anything to say. He didn't. So, tell it. Come on, really, all we care about is tell us what is. It's a new look. Is it nice? Somebody said it looks a little like a Mac.
To me,
Chrome.
It looks like Chrome OS is what it looks like, right?
That's what I think.
And maybe more to the point, it looks like Windows 10X, right? This is the Windows 10X UI brought over to Big Windows, for lack of a better term. Of course, because it is Big Windows, it's better than Windows 10X was. It also looks better just running on real hardware. Like Windows 10X, we were running in a virtual machine, and it looked kind of flat and plain. If you think back to like the Aero days when it was like Aero Basic was really terrible looking and flat, and then they had Aero Glass and it was kind of awesome. I mean, this is kind of like that. This is like the glass version. It's got some translucency going on and is better looking. This is going to be controversial for people. There's no doubt about it. There are people who are going to complain about the simplicity of it, the kind of dumbing down of the UI. There are going to be people who claim or complain about muscle memory issues where all Windows versions since Windows 95 have had a start button over in the lower left corner, and then the icons kind of come out from there. Now it's centered, so as you run and close apps, the positions are going to change a little bit.
But you can move it over to the left. You can move it over
to the left. That's true. But you move all of it. Like I'd actually like to see the start button stay over on the left and have the icons be in the middle. But let me just make one point about the centered thing. People have theorized about widescreen displays and like why might they do this, et cetera, et cetera. This is the way the Mac has worked since 2001, right? When Apple introduced the dock with Mac OS 10, the first version,
in the middle.
It was in the middle. It's been there ever since. And hundreds of millions of people use that system every single day, and it seems to work okay. So I just throw that out there. I know people are freaking, but like someone, Mary Jo, I think said, yes, you can. There is an option in there if you want it over on the side.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so this is just modern. It's more
sorry.
modern. It's modern design, which
it is literally whether you're talking about setting it up or using it. It is Windows 10.
So that begs the question, because Mary Jo was kind of thinking maybe it'd be more of a consumer targeted Windows versus this, and that Windows 10 would continue as a business. But it sounds like maybe this is just the next version of Windows.
Well, no. I don't think that changes anything that she said, to be honest. The way that this thing will be delivered or not delivered, we still don't know. And it's very possible. By the way, there's a registry. There's some registry entries you can screw around with that will just make it go back to Windows 10. So that tells me there's a switch that you can enable or disable where you have new UI, old UI. And her idea that businesses will be able to move forward for some amount of time on Windows 10, I think is still very valid.
I do too, because I think this is the next Windows, but I think they learned their lesson, I hope, from Windows 8. And it's not just going to be like, and now we're doing this. It's going to be like, and we're going to give you a run up to this, right? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to say that any consumer PC that's, assuming this comes out at the end of this year, which I guess it will be, any consumer PC sold this holiday season will probably come with this thing on it, right? And there won't be a choice. You're not going to get like a little dialogue. Do you want the old one or the new one? I mean, I think this is, going to be the mainstream thing going forward. But I mean, one of the many lessons of Windows 10 was that businesses reacted very violently to a lot of the support upgrade ideas that Microsoft had. And this might be the final big concession. Okay, you can stick with the thing.
I like that idea. Just leave a switch in there that says, because UI, who cares?
And by the way, that too is a Microsoft tradition that we kind of lost track of. And I'm not going to remember the exact version, but if you think about Microsoft evolved the start menu, and Windows XP was the first big change to the start menu. But Windows XP had an option that let you go back to the traditional Windows 2000 style start menu, right? And I don't remember when that stopped being the case. Probably Windows 8, frankly, but I don't remember. Them offering you to go back to the old UI or switch back to the old UI, even if it's only for businesses, I think is in keeping with that tradition. And for a kind of a customer-centric company like Microsoft is maybe the right way to go.
Smart. Very smart. Yes. Yep. Okay, I'm going to tell you the thing I've been watching everybody running. I'm not running this build because I'm not a maniac.
You're normal.
But,
you're not a psychotic person.
You guys are all going to laugh when I tell you, Paul probably already knows what I'm going to say here. The feature that got me the most excited yesterday was the new Snap.
Oh, yeah. Well, I actually know, you happened to mention that to me separately, so I do know that.
Right. So if you hover over the maximize button, instead of having some weird esoteric thing, you have these different grid layouts of how you want to snap the windows. And I'm like, finally, I'm going to be able to use Snap.
This is Snap is one of several features in Windows, and this is not unique to Windows. I think there's stuff like this in the Mac, iOS, whatever, but that are just kind of not discoverable, right? Snap is a way to organize windows on screen, and I think a lot of people kind of understand you have two things side by side, but there are other configurations. You could have 4 windows or whatever. It's something. It's possible by hitting certain keys on the keyboard you would snap and not know how you did it, and then you're like, well, I might want to do this again. How do I,
Yep.
So this is like it's a little it's like a drop down. Window or whatever, but it
like
shows you
almost,
that you can do it. And I like that because it makes Snap discoverable. It doesn't help you learn that there's a keyboard shortcut, but
no, I had no idea there was one. And so when I posted yesterday, I'm like, I love the new Snap. I hope this stays the way it is. There were two different responses I got on Twitter. One was, what is Snap? I know.
And the other one is like, what are you talking about? This has been here since Windows 8.
No, and everyone else is like, you're more stupid than a toddler. Well, that was actually one of the
Oh my God.
You can't.
What?
And of
That's why I
course,
hate
immediately
Twitter.
I muted that person. And I said,
hate
toddlers
Twitter.
unite. Goodbye. And then, but I'm like, so I've always found it very difficult to get Snap to work on the first try, and so I just stopped using it. I'm just like, yeah, I don't.
And by the way, if I could defend you for a second, Microsoft's research or user research has shown that most Windows users don't even know Alt Tab exists. Alt Tab has existed probably in Windows 2.0 or what, I don't remember when it debuted exactly, but Snap is a relatively new development. It only really became what it is now in like Windows 8.1 probably. I don't remember exactly, but it wasn't 8.0 because remember 8.0 with Snap was like a little tiny column.
That was impossible. I could never ever snap on Windows 8.
So let me throw. Here's a conspiracy theory for you, or at least a theory. I saw that if you look at it. Let me look at it now, just so I can say it. When I look at those little thumbnails of the different configurations, I see two screens. You know, like what if? Right? I mean, what if? Part of the point of this is because you can do it on a single screen. Of course, you can. You can have two windows. You can have three windows, one big and two small. You can have four. What if this is about dual screens?
That's good.
Partially.
That's good.
Right?
That's good.
That's just a thought.
I like it. Yep.